Hello Stampers! I've got an eye-catching autumn card for you today. Autumn's just around the corner, and this is my favorite season to stamp for, is autumn. I love all the colors, and today I really brought the colors just to make those oranges just pop on this card. So we're going to get started here. I'm using the Beauty of Friendship stamp set, and I'm going to show you how to build this tree up so that your light colors are underneath your dark colors. So we're going to do a little emboss resist. So I'm going to start with a basic white panel that's 3 by 4.25. All the dimensions for this card are down below this video. Just click show more and you'll see them there, along with all the links to the products. That'll take you directly to my online store where you can shop 24/7. So this is a basic white panel, 3 by 4.25. And we're going to start by stamping our tree. Now this tree, when you build it, it has a more detailed stamp for the leafy part and then a more solid one. We're going to start with the detailed one first. And we're going to start with Versamark and Cajun Craze ink. With emboss resist, you want to start foreground to background. So with this tree, we want the darker color to be in the foreground, and then we'll have the lighter color on the edges around that. So we need to put our darker color in first, so we're going to go with Cajun Craze. So I'm going to load my stamp with Versamark. So I loaded it with Versamark, then I'm going to load it with Cajun Craze, and then I'm going to stamp it. And I want to stamp this pretty high. I'm just taking probably the top inch off of this tree. It'll be off the paper. Give it a good stamping. Then we're going to bring out some clear embossing powder. I keep my embossing powder in a tub, and I'm just going to put embossing powder over that I just stamped. There we go. And then I'm going to use a heat tool, and I'm going to heat this up just until it turns shiny. And the reason I added that Versamark to my stamp before I put the Cajun Craze ink on is to get that ink tacky. So the Versamark acts as the sticking agent for your clear embossing powder. Otherwise your powder wouldn't stick to this image. There, we have that all embossed now, and like I said, I just heated it just until it turned shiny. So now I've got the more solid leafy image here, and I'm going to use Pumpkin Pie, which is lighter than the Cajun Craze. Clean my stamp off a bit, and I'm going to ink this image up with Versamark. And then Pumpkin Pie ink. And then this will get stamped over that image we just did. Give it a good stamping. Okay. And now this image gets heat embossed, and we'll be all done with our embossing after that. When you first start this card, you're going to say, oh, that doesn't look good at all. When you get done with this part right here, until you start putting colors over it, and it resists that ink. then it comes to life. So again, I'm just going to heat this just until it turns shiny. Only takes a moment. There we go. Okay, so now I want to mask the bottom of our panel because we want to put this hill in here. And we want to have it nice and light. So we're going to mask that by taking a double layer of 3-inch square Post-it notes. And I have the sticky part up here. I'm just going to start and take just a little bit off that sticky edge, and then I'm going to start making a hill. Alright, so there we have our hill shape, and I just want to mask the bottom of this. There we go, so there is our hill, all masked out. Then we're going to take some Balmy Blue ink, and since our image here is embossed, we don't have to worry about the ink sticking to it. So this ink that I'm putting on will just go to the background. So we're going to use Balmy Blue ink all over this unmasked area. You're going to see this tree really start to pop now. I think it's so fun to see the change in those leaves. When you get that blue behind them, it's amazing. So I got a good coat of that Balmy Blue on there. Make sure you put quite a bit of ink on here. You don't want like wimpy colors in your background. You want nice saturated colors. So that was Balmy Blue. Next we're going to go to Pacific Point. I'm going to use a darker blue blending brush here, and we're going to put this on, and we're going to almost come up to that, to the bottom of the leaves. We're going to leave a little bit of that Balmy Blue showing there, and we're going to make this kind of a hill shape follow along with our hill here. Okay, so that was Pacific Point. Now I'm going to bring in some rich Razzleberry. I love using Razzleberry along with orange in the fall. It's just so pretty together. So with this, I'm taking a blending brush and I loaded it, and I'm just going to do upward strokes along the edge of the Post-it note mask. This will look like you got some kind of trees maybe in the distance along that little hillside that's in the background. So I'm not doing a circular motion, I'm just pulling it up from the Post-it note. There we go. So I love the look of that. All right, so now we're going to remove our mask there. And I'm going to put some pumpkin pie in for our ground area. don't have to worry about going into your sky because you have that real dark purple there. You won't be able to see it if you do go over that ground area. Okay. So now I'm going to bring in the Cajun Craze here. And I'm going to stamp this little dotted stamp that comes in this Beauty of Friendship stamp set. It's right here. And I'm going to use that like leaves on the ground. And so I want to put a bunch of these down here. And I'm going to turn this stamp just probably about a quarter every time I stamp it, just so I'm getting a different look. It's not the same image just over and over and over again. And I want to concentrate it a lot to where our tree is, like the leaves have fallen. Okay, so that was our Cajun Craze. I'm going to bring out the pumpkin pie. I think I want some pumpkin pie spots too. Just for a little two-toned look there. And even though we have our background on our ground area, that pumpkin pie, when you stamp an image, it's going to be darker than when you blend it with a blending brush. So you'll be able to see it. So there's our leaves on the ground. So I'm going to bring in, so I'm going to stamp the tree trunk with Early Espresso. And I'm not loading it with Versamark or anything, and I'm going to stamp this over our leafy area. I want to come down some so that you can see some of those branches below the leaves. Give that a good stamping. And see, and when you stamp it a little lower than the leaves, and you have those branches coming out, it looks a little more natural that way. And then you're going to take a paper towel and you're going to wipe over the embossed area, just the embossed area. And that takes that ink off of your embossed leaves. And voila, you have your tree branches are behind the leaves where you want them. So that was Early Espresso. And I'm going to bring the Cajun Craze back in. I just want to put a shadow underneath this tree. And you have a little shadow stamp here. And I'm going to stamp it so that it is humped on the top and kind of flat on the bottom. I found that looks a little more natural. And I'm going to stamp it right over the base of that tree trunk. And I want to make it a little lighter, so I'm going to stamp it again on each side, overlapping, because I want this shadow to be almost as wide as the leaves are. So there is your shadow, super simple. Okay, lastly, I'm going to take a blending brush and some old olive ink. And I want a little color in my ground area besides that pumpkin pie. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to blend it upwards, just like what we did that purple. And I'm going to do this old olive here at the bottom. Gives you a little grassy look. Makes your ground a little two-toned, a little more natural looking. So there is our main panel done. So I have a rich razzleberry panel here that I have embossed. And I've embossed it with the gingham embossing folder. So I just put it in the folder and ran it through my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And then, so that that image pops a little more, I'm going to take rich raspberry ink. And I'm going to do some direct-to-paper on it. I want that image to really stand out there. And when you do this, see how it comes to life. So I have rich raspberry ink on rich raspberry cardstock. You can make it as dark as you want. So there we have it. Now it's going to get on your fingers, so be careful with that. So this panel here that I embossed is 2.5 by 5.25. Now I'm going to take it over to my paper cutter and I'm going to cut 1/2 inch off of the left side. Just for some interest, I have this cut. There's 1/2 inch and then there's 2 inches here. Okay, now let's flip our paper over. We'll start putting this together. I'm going to take our main image panel. I'm going to adhere it to a rich raspberry panel that's 3.25 by 4.5. Use multi-purpose glue. You use whatever you like in way of adhesive. This is just my favorite. Okay, I like when I get it on there. I like to turn it over, especially when you have embossing on one side, because sometimes your paper gets a little warped. So I like to turn it over and give it a good rub. Now it's on there very good. All right, so I have a Balmy Blue card base here that's 5.5 by 8.5, and I folded it in half for a quarter card. Inside I added a rich raspberry panel that is 4 by 5.25, and then a pumpkin pie panel that's 3 3/4 by 5. And it just coordinates so well with the front of this card, that pumpkin pie inside. So that's what I have inside, and then I'm going to add these panels here on the outside of the card. I add it over here to the right side. And then this little strip, you kind of want to make sure that you have your design is lined up correctly. Are you all ready for fall? I think I am. It's been such a hot summer that I could use some cool weather. And fall in Ohio is always so beautiful with the trees changing and that. But we won't see any of that till September, October. So there is our embossed pieces on there. And now I'm going to just adhere my main panel. Go. I'm going to flip that over and give it a good rub. Okay, now for a little embellishment. I have some Cajun Craze cardstock here. And this is the Label Me Fancy punch. So I'm just going to punch this out. That was out of Cajun Craze. And I'm just going to use the label part of it, and I'm going to take a pair of scissors and I'm going to cut the one end off, just where the design is. Now I'm going to take some rich raspberry ink and a blending brush. And I'm going to put some ink on just the edges of this, just to give a little contrast. I'm going to do that all the way around. There we go. That makes that piece look kind of rusty. So we're going to adhere this onto our card front. I'm going to have this come out to the edge of the card, the edge of that Balmy Blue card base. There we go. And then I just want to add, I have the brushed metal adhesive back dots, and I'm going to use some of these smaller copper looking ones. I'm going to add a couple here to my label. I think that's cute. And there we have it. There's our finished card. I hope you enjoyed this project and that you're so inspired to get those inks out and get inky today. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Bye.